Well, you know, it's that time again. It's Friday. It's Tier List Fridays. That's the name of the show. That's the day of the week, of the month. And we're looking at... What are we looking at?
Today we're looking at range DPS in Mythic Plus
Hell
from
yeah.
a little bit more analytical and top meta perspective, but that doesn't mean that you will not be able to play unless you're playing the S tier, because even the lowest tier is done like, what, 25, stuff like that?
Oh man, let's just downright say it. All the specs that we're going to look on today are going to be absolutely fine. We are looking at the top of the top, like the le crème de la crème, le exquisite. You know, the numbers that are being made at the highest level possible. But all of these specs can do 15s to 20s, hands down, no problem. And they can be a top DPS in their meters, respectively.
And, you know, if you want to be and know how to be that top DPS, you gotta try the new WarcraftLogs Companion App for your desktop PC, which kind of combines the functionality of the Warcraft Logs website with the actual desktop app that you would normally have to upload the logs. And it's all compiled into one neat little window where you can essentially check everything in one place instead of having to have multiple places, a page and an app as well. It's pretty straightforward to install. You just follow the instructions from the website. It's actually, I don't even remember if there were any steps to it. It was that quick. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's under the Overwolf umbrella. So it's definitely something that we use. We found it really nice, really quick, really efficient to monitor progress, especially if you're doing like a longer session of WoW, of raids and dungeons and all of that. Just having everything there, everything checked. You can check all of your profile for all of your alts. If you do more than just one, it's really cool.
It's all
and
in one
highly
place.
recommend you use it.
Yeah, so thank you, WarcraftLogs, for sponsoring this video in tandem with Overwolf. And now, shall we get into it and start it off with one of the specs that actually has fallen? We'll get the Affliction Warlock, baby. We're starting it off like that. And we recently made a guide for it, and we absolutely love the spec. But there is a couple of things to address here. I think mainly the problem that other specs on the course of the patch actually got in front. And Affliction, although it had good changes, right? It had, you know, the Seed of Corruption.
Affliction isn't necessarily bad. That's the thing. It's not necessarily bad. It's just that other specs seem to be doing a lot better with like higher eye-level gear and stuff like that. And obviously the meta has been kind of chiseled. And when we're talking about the higher echelon of players, we're also looking at, you know, like team composition. So sometimes it's important what you can use the best of, right? So right now, I think the last time that we had Affliction was S tier, if I recall.
Yeah, it was
It kind of dropped this time around. It dropped all the way to C tier.
C tier, man, that's a big... But again, we have to mention it. This is like, it's C tier in comparison to like minimum plus 24s, okay?
Yeah, I think Affliction is around the 26-ish, 27-ish as well. Keys, I'm not entirely sure, because if I'm not mistaken, Shelley is still the #1 Affliction Warlock on Raider.io, so he's pushing probably with something that's probably better than Affliction, but we'll see what that is.
Well, he's playing multiple specs of Warlock, but we'll get to the final image for sure. Now, the next one on the page, Arcane Mage. I made a rhyme. I made a goddamn rhyme. I didn't even know it.
All right, this is actually kind of interesting. And Mage overall as a class is a little bit hard to place because of, we'll see in a second. But Arcane Mage was last time, I think, was S tier, and it's not far off. It's still one of the...
Yeah, it's one of the betters, but, you know, gone are the days of Fire Mage dominating everything and anything.
Yeah,
we'll look at it a little bit.
We'll see how Fire is, but in terms of Arcane, I think Arcane is around 8 here. The thing is,
still good.
If I'm not mistaken, the best Arcane run was probably done by Waldy Cutie or whatever the name is, who's right now the #1 mage in the world. Not playing Arcane, but I feel like if like the top mages would play Arcane, we would see maybe higher performance, maybe close to S tier, but it's just not quite there. I mean, we're gonna have to separate S tier from the rest, so to make it like feel like it's impactful, like it's worth it.
It's just the thing, as we talked about in the show, a lot of the times when looking at the meta, some specs within that class range, and, you know, more specifically here, Mage, will always be more represented and do a lot better if that certain spec is, you know, has a little niche and extra nudge in terms of DPS. So this is why maybe you won't see Arcane in S tier, but...
I mean, A tier, come on.
Yeah, no,
A tier is pretty much where the meat of the specs will be anyway.
There's no joke. Plus, you know, Arcane is a super fun spec. It had I don't know, it's time in the shadows for God knows how long.
I mean, jumping from like Arcane couldn't complete like 16s and 17s in
I remember
Fates,
that.
being able to do like 27s, 28s even, I think.
It's meta. Arcane is meta. The Arcane dream is real.
It's pretty good.
Is the Beastmastery Hunter dream real? I do wonder.
It's definitely more real than last time we looked at it, and I feel like last time I checked, probably for the raid, but I'm pretty sure for the dungeons as well. Beastmastery has pretty much climbed to be maybe the best hunter spec.
What?
Not sure.
What about Marksman? What about Survival?
The thing is, Marksman still has probably way better burst than Beastmastery. Is probably what's gonna keep it a little bit higher. But Beastmastery has consistent damage. It obviously has Bloodlust. It has the functionality of pets, which help you do some crazy pulls, like for instance in Mist of Eternal Scythe. That's also really great. And I mean, it's pretty solid.
You can basically have one hand play your Beastmastery and the other make a coffee or some breakfast.
You can do your
or something.
homework actually when you do keys.
What I'm trying to say is it's super fun to play BM because you are basically allowed to do anything on the move, and that feels really relaxing.
That's very unique, actually.
It's comforting. So
I think it's a B tier BM right now. It was higher than last time.
Last time it was pretty shit.
It's kind of middle of the pack. It's like, let's say, and it's doing like very high keys. Don't get me wrong. So it's good.
It was shit last time. Again, in terms of like super high keys, not in like,
Yeah, but now in terms of super high keys is like really up there though. So.
Yeah, but here's something that I'm happy to see not being in the top line anymore. The Boomkins. Hey, Boomkins, I love you. I love you.
I wouldn't
fuck off.
be so sure. Okay, so Boomkin is again one of the best. I think it's still used in MDI.
It is still used in MDI, but in terms of like what we saw in Raider.io stuff and all of that, it's not S tier anymore.
It's as close to S tier as you can get. It's still A tier. It's around Arcane. I think we're seeing more Boomies than Arcane Mages in the top, so I'm not sure which one would probably be better, but I guess
I'm gonna keep Arcane in front of Boomkin just because I have the mouse, I have the power, and shut up. So I mean, Boomkins have been dominating Shadowlands in every aspect of the game, Mythic Plus included. They were like kind of reigning kings with Fire Mages in Season 1. They're looking really solid in Season 2. I don't see them going anywhere. It's no surprise they're doing so well. What was the biggest keys, like 28?
28s probably. I mean, Venthyr Boomy is really good in higher keys. I think that's probably where you can really see the strength of it. And obviously Boomkin always has, the trees and all the good utility that you need.
Don't get me started on all the goddamn utility a Boomkin can have. I just have a problem with how it looks. It's fine. Let's move along to one of the specs that I love looking at, Demonology Warlock. Demonology, and I've seen Shelly play Demo too on his stream, so
he's bumping some serious shit. I think Demo's actually his main right now, which you can probably tell where this is going to go. But Demonology is definitely so far, arguably, obviously you can take this with a grain of salt, the best performing Warlock spec at the moment.
What?
Which is in B tier right now. What? Demonology. It's clearing about, I think, 27s. I think Shelly was doing like 27s. I might be mistaken. Maybe Raider.io is all. Maybe they're not logging all of their top keys. But in terms of just looking at the overall performance, Demonology is doing way better. I think last time we had it in D tier.
Yeah, man, this is the thing, right? A lot of these specs that are currently now, looking a lot better within the tier list, and people playing it, they're actually representing, being carried out of the gutter as we were previously used to them, and doing great. I know we ranked it a little bit lower last time, and once again, this is a problem with either other specs being preferred, so people would have played like last time. I'm sure
it was
people
pretty early in the season.
And a lot of folks would be going for Affliction and stuff. But since most of the high-end Mythic Plus key pushers have cleared the Mythic raid as well, they're probably done their PvP chores and all of that. A lot of gear, a lot of stats being, chunked on and being added on will deliver some of these specs to do better. And by no surprise, having Demonology, it's great. It's, again, one of those specs that, had a bad, I wouldn't say a bad, but just a sad history, and it was a
bit
pity.
of an underdog. I mean, it has been for a while a little bit of an underdog with Affliction and Destro kind of taking the kick in the last couple of years, but it's good to see Demo high up there, and don't get me wrong, B tier is pretty high.
Oh yeah. Well, what about Destruction? The other spec. This is closing off the Warlock circle.
The Warlock circle, the loop, the whatever the fuck.
This is the worst, right? This is the D tier, right?
It is D tier. But then again, this is what we're talking about. Destro was right now clearing the least amount of the lowest amount of keys, like at the very top.
24s?
It's still like 24s, 25s.
I mean, no,
so it's
if it's
Jesus,
a D tier that can clear 24s is nothing to sneeze at, okay? But once again, you know, Destrolock, I think it's great on cleave. It also really good AoE, Rain of Fire, if I'm not mistaken.
Rain of Fire,
really good.
It has really good burst. It's really good with Havoc. So you know.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of has everything going for it. I just feel that Affliction and Demonology just take the cake a little bit more, especially Demonology nowadays. Maybe it's directly related to the damage profile. Maybe just the numbers don't add up if you play it perfectly.
Has access to its demon way quicker, so it's a lot. The burst
there you go.
Is quicker,
you always want faster and faster burst, you know, on a shorter cooldown. So that could probably be it for sure. Now, my friend, what do you say? What do you do about Elemental Shaman?
Well, Elemental Shaman has actually retained its position.
No changes?
It's still pretty good. I mean, it's not S tier, but it is clearing just below that, so it's around A tier.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked before about all of the utility that Elemental can bring. It scales pretty well, and I think most, if not all, of the Elementals right now are probably Kyrian with the Vesper Totem, which is reconciled. I know the rest of Shaman is doing crazy amounts of damage with the Vesper Totem.
I've seen it. But
Elemental is, once again, you know, really, really, really solid. I mean, you do have Bloodlust, you have a lot of totems to help you out, so it's not particular surprise. It's probably just the way that it scales right now, which is pretty good to see.
It's been doing great overall, I feel, Elemental, and you know, the fact that once again another spec like Elemental is being placed on a higher echelon of the tier, because it's not the easiest one to pull off, and if you do pull it off, you know, you get that reward, right? So doing great damage involves lots of skill. That's Elemental, and it's an A tier. Moving along to the former king of all content, Fire Mage.
Fire Mage. Fire Mage is right now the least performing
well, what do you know?
mage spec.
It did kind of suffer with the changes 9.1, so I'm not surprised.
I suppose, I mean, it's still B tier, and B tier is pretty high up there, and it's most likely because the majority of mages are probably playing Frost and Arcane, the ones that are actually pushing themselves, so it's likely that if people like, well, let's say Waldy Cutie would be playing Fire Mage, it would probably be around 8 tier. I would probably be seeing it at least that high.
Yeah, I think it kind of suffered a bit from, I would say, the nerfs. Obviously, 9.1. It still has its, you know, fast combustion windows and being able to deliver a ridiculous amount of AoE damage. No problems there. I just feel that in terms of like all of the mage specs, there is one true king, let's put it like that, that has risen, and we were kind of expecting this moving into 9.1, kind of like speculating, and a lot of folks that were playing mage at the time also kind of seen this coming, and you know, it's a good segue to the Frost Mage.
Yeah, because
Frost Mage, I believe, is it our only S tier?
It's the only S tier in the sense that the highest keys are predominantly cleared by
29?
Frost Mage. Well, because mostly the top meta is populated by melee specs. And you've seen our melee tier list seeing Windwalker and Sub at there, while the top teams are Windwalker, Sub, and Frost Mage.
Yeah, well, so what a surprise.
That's obviously the team composition will influence the tier list, but then again, you know, you're going to pick whatever is the best, right? So it's still relevant. And Frost Mage, obviously, it's weird because you would think that Fire Mage would be best with uncapped Flame Strike, which is I guess great, but Frost Mage with the ease of access to
Frozen Orb,
and then
finally
Blizzard Rain is valid.
Yeah, and it's also super fun to play. I believe that, you know, there's two distinct styles on Fire and Frost, obviously, and that's good to happen. Where Fire would be the more super bombastic, fast APM stuff, you know, on mobs and whatever. Frost is like, okay, there's not a lot of APM, but it's a little bit more methodical to the play, and it can do better right now. So that's a rewarding thing to have.
I think Frost is also propelled by the seasonal affix right now, where I think, I might be mistaken, but I think the Champions brand Anima Power that gives you crits or mastery,
definitely.
You can get like high levels of crit, crit a lot, and that just keeps your uptime way higher. From what I understand with Frost Mage, which is something that Fire Mage and Arcane Mage cannot really take advantage of that much.
Also, you got to take into account also there's a useful component in the Frost Mage kit. Obviously, Fire Mage has Frost Nova, but Fire Mage can like continuously slow huge packs of mobs, all Frostmage, all the time. So this is really useful for necrotic weeks, and I can definitely see, you know, a lot more presence of Frostmages because of that too.
I can imagine that at plus 29s, which is where Frost is currently right now.
Would be impactful, right?
It's kind of like necrotic all the time because of how much damage the mobs do. You kind of want your tank to not always have to tank them all the time. So it's well
deserved S tier for sure. I definitely recommend playing it. I know I've been having a blast whenever I play my Frostmage. But now let's move on to the new spec Flame is dominating with, which is Marksmanship Hunter. Haven't seen you doing keys a lot on the boy.
No, I still like my survival, but I have a feeling that if I go with Marksman and keys, I will do so much better than survival that I'll just be sad, and I don't want to get there. But Marksman, I mean, with the addition of volley, I think even in season 1 we've seen Marksman doing pretty good, and it's maintaining a very high ranking in the tier list right now. It's A tier, along with Elemental, Shaman, and Arcane Mage. It's doing almost the highest keys, probably because it's maybe just not the best out there. I mean, you're talking about, you know, Monk and Sub Rogue doing all that nice, juicy physical damage. So if you add the Marksman, they're just, it's never gonna compare to a Windwalker, and it doesn't compare to Sub when it comes to single target. But it is, let's say, maybe the next best thing, with a quick access to 45 seconds to volley, and the super quick. Most Marksmans, I think, in raids play Night Fae, but you could time volley with resonating arrow almost all the time, or you wait if you play Night Fae and you have it with Wild Spirits. But I feel like Marksman is really solid, has maybe one of the best kits in terms of damage when it comes to all Hunter specs.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, remember at the beginning of Shadowlands, you know, Marksman was kind of dominating anything and everything at the really beginning, and it's kind of retained a really great position in all. It
had like a little up and down, but right now it seems like it's really solid A tier.
Really good all across the board. So definitely well deserved A tier for sure. And the last spec to be covered here, Shadow Priest.
Shadow Priest,
one of the most fun things to play ever.
Maybe one of the most difficult specs I have played. But probably
it's a bitch to pull off.
Because I play Venthia, which is not ideal. But surprisingly, I was looking at some of the top Shadow Priests, and I was seeing them really high, and I was like, wait a minute, is Shadow really doing that much damage, or is it just taken for power infusion, which is kind of what might have happened in 9.0? But it's not actually.
Oh, really?
Shadow Priest is really pumping. I mean, it's not pumping as high as you know, Frost Mage and stuff like that, but it is A tier, and it is doing really well. And obviously, have, you know, since Priest is not necessarily the best healer out there right now, you can take advantage of the stamina buff.
Vampiric
Embrace is probably one of the
heals from
best
Shadowman.
additions. Shadowman, sure,
Mass Dispel, Purge, there's a lot of it.
Like, I'm incredibly mediocre on my Shadow Priest, and when I pop Vampiric Embrace, I do a lot of fucking healing, man. Can you imagine, like, I mean, if you have top tier Shadow?
Yeah, if you have a lot of dots around it and stuff, all of that is definitely helpful.
Really good.
Plus, you know, you can definitely see the utility of Shadow Priest in terms of like
Mind Soot can help.
Mind Soot, yes, mass dispelling, off healings with
that's also
Shadow.
really good.
Yeah, and purging as well. So there's definitely, and this spells on your party, like, you know, purifying and stuff. So, you know, having a great damage profile.
You know, the other Boomy in terms of utility kit, it has
I feel it's way harder to play than Pumpkin. But I do love.
Personally, I have a harder time on Shadow than I have on Boomy, but I don't think either of the two specs are particularly easy to play at a very high level. Shadow A tier.
Yeah, this is basically it. The final image. I mean, of everything, and it did change a lot when compared to when we first did. I think
we saw it like about 2 months ago, and aside from Marksman and Elemental, everything changed.
Yeah,
so those are the only specs that actually kind of maintain the solid spot.
Yeah, and Affliction really dropped down from like S tier to C tier. And again, guys, we have to reiterate this. I know we sound like a broken record, but all of these specs, we're talking here about ranking them in between the minimum key being 24. So if like the Destruction Warlock, which would be the D tier here, does a 24, and the S tier being Frost Mage, who did like 29, I believe.
29, yeah.
You can imagine that in terms of like whatever you play out there and decide to like go and do keys with, any of these will be great and will work out.
That's the thing, man. Like right now, the difference between the top and the bottom, at least in terms of range, is about 5 key levels. Actually, 4 key levels. I think Affliction did 25s as well.
Well, there
so 4 key levels as opposed to like 13, which was in BFA. I mean,
it's
for all the
difference.
faults that Shadowlands has, they're actually doing a decent job at balancing the space.
Yeah, we have to praise them for that. Nevertheless, so this is the final image. I say it's pretty good. Let us know what you think in the comments. But first,
our patrons need to be thanked for their support of our channel. That was very detached emotionally, but we actually do really appreciate all of your support and everything that you do. As you can see, this is a new format if you haven't watched any of our videos lately, and it's actually really cool. I mean, come on, it looks pretty cool. But if you, the viewer, want to support us a little bit more, and you want to find out what all of this jab is about and what perks you can get with being a patron, you can check the link down below, and you'll find some juicy stuff.
Yeah, if there's anything you like over there, just join on the Patreon team, support this content we do over here, and everybody wins, okay? That being said, thank you, Patreons, and thank you for watching the video. Have a great weekend.
See you next time.
Bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.